Trigger warning. This episode contains topics of rape and sexual assault. Listener discretion is advised.
And I made him watch. Hello and welcome to And I Made Him Watch, the podcast where I make my husband watch weird movies and we discuss how weird things really got. I'm your host, Dani Page, and here with me forever and always, the old ball and chain of love, the filmmaker, Troy Allen. How's it?
Oh, it is. It is.
It is?
Yep.
It is. So, unfortunately, I made you watch Humanoids From The Deep from 1980. Where failed science experiments of half fish, half man attack a seaside town. The monsters then, and I quote, kill the men and rape the women. This is an abortion of a movie. I gave it a 3 out of 10 when I first watched it, and my score has not changed. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm never gonna forgive you for making me watch this.
Yeah.
That was a pretty low blow.
Well, I was not looking forward to doing the research or rewatching this one, and I honestly contemplated skipping this one, but if I had to see it, you have to see it. And you did. And you did.
I sure did. Yep. Every waking minute.
Anything you want to add?
Oh my God.
Before we get into it?
Oh my God. I do not recommend seeing this movie, but if you must, maybe do it under the influence of something.
Sure.
You know?
Solid.
That would help out a lot.
Yeah.
Yep.
Solid suggestion.
Yep.
Let's get this over with. Originally, the movie was offered to Joe Dante. He's the Gremlins guy. Yeah. But he turned it down. I wonder why. So the project was handed off to Barbara Peters. Peters is an American director and screenwriter for television and film. She is best known for her collaborations with producer-director Roger Corman, which she did with Humanoids from the Deep. She also directed episodes of television such as Remington Steele. That's a TV series that follows the adventures of Laura Holt, a female private detective, and her partner, a former conman who assumes the identity of her fictionist boss, Remington Steele. She started her career in the film industry working in various roles such as makeup, script supervisor, and production manager. She made her feature debut as a co-writer and co-director of the softcore lesbian film The Dark Side of Tomorrow in 1970. Apparently it was produced or paid for by like this multi-million-dollar Muslim guy or something like that. It's on the Wikipedia. I'm not sure how real that is.
Yeah. You talking about this movie?
No, the softcore lesbian film.
Ah.
Yes, it was
Okay.
an Israeli investor wanted an X-rated sex film and enabled Peters to turn to directing for Just the Two of Us, originally The Dark Side of Tomorrow. So an Israeli guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just so you know. So anyway, she followed this with the biker film Bury Me an Angel in 1972, which was one of the very first films to feature a female protagonist in that genre. She worked for Roger Corman and New World Pictures in the 1970s, directing and writing several low-budget exploitation films such as Summer School Teachers and Star Hops. She also handled second unit director duties on car chase films such as Moving Violations and Eat My Dust. She directed the horror film Humanoids From The Deep in 1980, but was unhappy with the final product, as Corman added several rape scenes without her consent. She asked for her name to be removed from the film, but this was not done. After this experience, she stopped working for New World and focused on directing TV shows in the 1980s. She established her own company, the Silver Fox Films, in 1990s, and moved to Oregon in 2008, where she continues to make commercials and documentaries. So, when she was finished doing the film originally, she was pretty happy with it. It had a very much more detailed and in-depth plot, and there was a lot of science stuff involved and a lot more quality. But Corman said something along the lines of that wasn't enough violence and sex for their intended audience. I'm not sure which audience he's trying to hit with this type of stuff, because yeah,
I don't know either, because granted, it was the 80s. It was a different time, but you also had movies like Star Wars. Star Wars came out. Star Wars has zero sex and a fuck ton of science. Granted, it's science fiction, but still, and that has a pretty big following. If I
yes,
if I even have to say it, but I mean, I don't know. There is that old saying of like sex sells. But.
So when Peters found out about the changes, like I said earlier, she wanted to have her name removed from the project, but Corman was like, then you're going to pay for the editing to get your name out of the project. And she was like, I can't do that. So it went on.
Wow.
Yeah. Apparently later she refused to watch it. So she didn't really see it until years later when it was on cable TV. And then she said something along the lines that it was a silly little movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Terukai Jimmy Murakami is also listed as the director of the film, but is uncredited. Murakami was an American animator and film director who worked in various countries and genres. He was born in San Jose, California in 1933. And was interned with his family at a concentration camp during World War II. He studied art in Los Angeles and started his career at APU and moved to Japan and England and then Ireland. He co-founded Murakami Wolf Productions and directed several low-budget films for Roger Corman, such as Battle Beyond the Stars. He also directed the acclaimed animation adaptation for Raymond Briggs' books, The Snowman and When the Wind Blows. He died in Dublin in 2014. So I'm not sure if this is the guy that added the extra scenes or not, because Corman had a whole nother director do the scenes for him of the more the rape scenes that apparently had to be in there. So I don't know if he was the one who actually did that or not. I want to see, I thought I saw, okay, so second unit director, James Sabard Ilati, also the director of Deathstalker, was hired to enliven the film, and he filmed the explicit scenes in which the humanoids raped the women. So that's who it was. So I don't know what Jimmy did. He was just, I guess, maybe second director, but usually second director gets credited. But on to our cast. Doug McClure plays the humble Jim Hill. He was born in Glendale, California in 1935 to an Irish-American father and an English mother. He spent his summers on a Nevada ranch where he learned to ride horses and participated in rodeos. He studied art in Los Angeles and began his career acting in minor roles on various TV shows like Death Valley Days and The Twilight Zone. He was best known for his role as Trampas, a cowboy on NBC series The Virginian, which he ran for 9 seasons from 1962 to 1971. He also appeared in several low-budget sci-fi and adventure movies, such as The Lamb That Time Forgot, Battle Beyond the Stars, and he was the inspiration for the Simpsons character Troy McClure, a parody of B-movie actors.
I was thinking that. As soon as I read his name, I was like, that sounds like Troy McClure. Voiced by the late, great Phil Hartman. But, I just... I immediately made that connection as soon as I saw his name.
Nice. Good job. He rose to fame in 1960s when he co-starred with William Bendix on NBC Western series Overland Trail. He then joined the cast of The Virginian, where he played Trampas, a friendly and loyal cowboy who worked on the Shiloh Ranch. He became a popular and beloved TV star and remained on the show until its end in 1971. He also starred in some movies during this period, such as Shenandoah, The King's Pirate, and The Unforgiven. After The Virginian, he tried to launch in several TV series such as Barbary Coast, The Law, and Jake Wilder, and Search, but none of them lasted more than one season. He also worked for Roger Corman in New World Pictures, where he directed and starred in several low-budget sci-fi and fantasy films such as The Earth's Core, The People That Time Forgot, and Humanoids From The Deep. He later regretted some of these as they tarnished his reputation as a serious actor. In the 1980s and 90s, he continued to appear in TV shows and movies, mostly as supporting roles and cameos. He also starred in the fantasy sitcom Out of This World, where he played the mayor of a small town. He was diagnosed with lung cancer in 1994 and died in 1995 at the age of 59. He was really young. He was a star. He has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame and is remembered as one of the most iconic TV cowboys of all time.
Wow, good for him.
Yeah.
Nice.
Anne Turkle portrays Dr. Susan Drake. Anna was born in 1946 and was raised in Manhattan. She is the daughter of Thelma L. and Marvin A. Turkle, with Australian Jewish and Russian Jewish roots, and began taking acting, dances, and voice lessons early on. By 16, she had studied at the Musical Theater Academy with prominent coaches. In 1971, Anne performed in summer stock theater, catching the eye of Vogue magazine editor due to her impressive 6 feet tall stature. Soon, she became a sought-after model, gracing the covers of top fashion magazines. 2 years later, she found success in international markets, modeling in Europe. At 27, Anne shifted gears, leaving her modeling career to co-star in the movie 99, 44, 100% Dead in 1974. Along the actor Richard Harris. They fell in love, got married, and appeared in several movies together until their divorce in 1982, and then transitioned to TV, making guest appearances and performing her own stunts. That's pretty impressive. Dang. Apart from acting, Anne is a screenwriter and successful photographer. She stays active, enjoying sports like tennis, softball, skating, volleyball, and skiing. So she's like super active. Her love for the outdoors is reflected in her photography and paintings. Anne is a passionate advocate for animal rights and children's causes, dedicating her time and effort to raise money for charities worldwide.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the same Richard Harris that she was married to, but Richard Harris was the first actor that played Dumbledore in the first Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, or the Philosopher's Stone, if you're one of our UK listeners.
Shall I look?
But yeah, he only did the one film because then he died shortly after.
It is the same Richard Harris.
Yeah, and then Michael Gambon took over the role.
He was in 2 Harry Potters, actually. He was in the first one and the second.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right, then. Well, that's interesting.
Yeah. So, our local racist and shitstormer, Hank Saltery, is played by Vic Morrow. And I know you recognized his name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As soon as I saw his name, I was like, holy fuck, dude. And it's not even that Vic Morrow is a big name in film, but it's just, his fate, essentially.
Yeah.
Which...
yeah.
You were talking about Doug McClure and how he had been in the Twilight Zone previous to that. But then Vic Morrow was in the Twilight Zone, the movie.
Yep.
Directed by John Landis. But I think we all know, if you're a huge film buff, like we are, then you know what happened.
Let's talk about it. Morrow was an American actor who was born in Bronx, New York on February 14th, Valentine's baby, in 1929. to Russian Jewish immigrants. He dropped out of high school at 17 and joined the U.S. Navy. Then used the GI Bill to study pre-law in Florida State. He discovered his passion for acting and made his film debut in Blackboard Jungle in 1955, playing a rebellious student. He became famous for his role as Sergeant Chip Saunders in the TV series Combat from 1962 to 1967, which earned him an Emmy nomination. He also appeared in many other TV shows and films such as King Creole in 1958, God's Little Acre, 1958, and The Bad News Bears in 1976. And then The Twilight Zone, the movie, in 1983. He was married twice and had 2 children, one whom is an actress, Jennifer Jason Leigh. He died tragically on July 23rd, 1982, at the age of 53, when a helicopter crashed on him and 2 child actors during the filming of a scene for Twilight Zone, the movie.
Yep. Yeah. It was very, very tragic what happened.
Yep. It was. It's very sad. Very, very sad. The forgiving and heroic Johnny Eagle is played by American actor Anthony Pina. He was born in San Antonio, Texas on February 18th, 1947. He was a high school athlete who was scouted by the Cincinnati Reds to play professional baseball. He chose to pursue his education instead. He attended the University of Santa Barbara, where he majored in English and history and obtained a diploma in teaching challenged students. He taught high school and city college classes before discovering his passion for acting. He made his film debut in Marathon Man in 1976, playing a guard in Uruguay. He became known for his role as Miguel Rodriguez in the Newman family butler on CBS daytime soap opera The Young and the Reckless. He joined the series in 1984 and stayed for 22 years, earning an Emmy nomination and a Nosotros Silver Anniversary Golden Eagle Award. He also appeared in many other TV shows and films such as General Hospital, Highway to Heaven, Dynasty, MacGyver, Colors, and The Running Man. Born on 4th of July and The Cool Surface. He's currently writing and developing projects for television and film.
Nice.
Yep. And I tried to find out if he was actually Native American, but
yeah, a lot of the time, those actors weren't actually Native American. They just kind of fit the bill. But, yeah, I'll talk about that later.
Okay.
Later in the episode.
Okay. The film had a budget of $2.5 million. Let that sink in. The movie that we just watched had a budget of $2.5 million, which is still below average for the time, but still $2.5 million, you can make a decent movie, I feel like, especially in the 80s, because that's a little over $9 million into 2024. Its box office made over just $2 million. So yeah, not very surprising. They didn't make the money back. It was like 2.1.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the majority of that money was probably spent on special effects, like just with the costumes and stuff, because the costumes were pretty good.
Well, I'll tell you some stuff about that too. Filming took place in several seaside towns in North California, such as Mendocino, Fort Bragg, and Noyo itself, where the movie is set. As the movie was almost done, the producer, Roger Corman, wanted more sexy and monster scenes. He asked to film scenes of the humanoids attacking and undressing young women. The director, Barbara Peters, who didn't like this idea, said no. Corman suggests getting a second director's opinion before using the new scenes, and Peters reluctantly agreed. However, Corman never asked Peters or the crew before showing the new scenes in the film's preview. Peters was angry, saying that the added scenes were unnecessary nudity and didn't match with the original plan. Corman also cut out important story parts to make room for the nudity and monster scenes. Peters complained that the film was no longer what she was working on and asked her name to be removed, and Corman agreed but wanted her to pay for the changing and the credits, and she refused. Many years later, Peters was watching the film on TV and surprisingly said it turned out to be a funny little movie. Despite the tough times during making it, she seemed to have a different view of the final result. So yeah, yep.
That's the worst kind of filmmaker. Like, foregoing the actual story just for what, you know?
Boobs.
Yeah.
Boobs and violence, sexual violence.
Yep.
Yep. So the movie starts with some establishing shots. Underwater, and we see shots of the fishing village of Noyo, California, which is a real place. And we get some racism right off the bat from Hank Slattery.
Yep.
Towards Johnny Eagle as the fishermen get ready to go out on the water. We get a shot of a single-legged seagull too, which is interesting. It was an interesting choice, but I liked it. I liked seeing him hop around on his little leg.
I can't say that was scripted. I really don't know if it was scripted.
How could you get that scripted? How could you, like... Oh yeah, we had to find a one-legged seagull for this movie.
Hey Johnny, get that fucking one-legged eagle, that seagull over here.
Anyway, as they're casting the nets, they catch what they think is a good haul for the day. This is Deke and his boys on his boat. As they try to pull up the catch, everything, and I mean everything, goes wrong. There's no fuel in this motorized pulley. The boat won't move because there's no oil pressure, whatever that fucking means. And meanwhile, the kid that's filling up the pulley is splashing gas all over the damn place. And it's just a lot going on in this one scene. It's very chaotic. And they're really fighting with whatever's in their net. So one guy's hands are like bleeding from holding the rope, and who better to help with this but the kid, right? So the pulley breaks, and one of the guys literally pushes the kid into the water, and then the unseen catch drags the kid down, and we get some blood effect. Then one of the guys from the boat fires a flare in the middle of the day, but it hits the deck instead, and the boat explodes from a flare and gas. It literally explodes.
Yeah. So they're up to that point, like, the cinematography wasn't too bad.
The first shot underwater are beautiful. Yeah. They're beautiful, vibrant shots.
Yeah, the underwater shots are really, really well done. You do get some shaky shots, like when they're up on the dock, when we see Hank Slattery being racist and stuff. But they're not meant to be shaky. They're not handheld shots. They're like tripod shots. But something happens, like when the camera operator goes to like pan over, it's like really shaky. But and then obviously the seagull with one leg, like that was super funny.
Beautiful.
Spot on.
Beautiful.
And then we see, when Deke and his crew are out there, we see the monster's hand in the net. And I thought, like, wow, for that to be the first shot of the monster, it was really well done. Like, the hand is really well put together. Like, that's why I think that a lot of the money went to the special effects stuff, because it's really well done, I think.
Okay.
And then you also get Deke, like, terrorizing his son, like you've been on this boat all day. Why don't you put some damn gas in the pulley, And I just said, Deke's son is going to hate him when he's older. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, Jackie, his son, won't ever get older. He's dead now. Yeah. He's gone.
He's fish food.
He's literally lost to Davy Jones's locker, Yeah. So, yeah. And then I was like, yeah, you really shouldn't fire that flare into that puddle of gasoline. You really should do that. But
the guy with the flare trips, I think, and the flare goes off.
Whoop. It's very like cartoony when he does it too. So, whoop.
And then it just like explodes.
Yeah, immediately. Boat goes boom. Yeah.
Boat goes boom. Nearby, Jim and his brother watch as the boat goes boom. And they call the Coast Guard. Later, Jim is being interviewed by the sheriff, who's also named Hank. So we have Hank Slattery. Slattery?
Slattery.
And then we have Hank the sheriff.
Yes.
It was a lot. It was very confusing.
There's not really any difference between them, though. They're both like super racist.
Yeah. Most of the people in this. Yeah, anyway. So he's being interviewed by the sheriff. And while this happens, the dog and toddler freak out. And Jim lets the dog go out to go get whatever is out in the yard. Baron, the dog, is then attacked by a monster. Jim and Carol, his wife, go looking for Baron and finds the slimy stuff and then Baron's body.
Poor Baron.
I
did not like that. First off, you hear a bump in the night and you just say, sick 'em.
Sick 'em.
Jim said sick 'em.
Yes.
Like, not even bullshitting you. And he just opened the door, let the dog out, and then just closed the door back. Like, wasn't even really concerned with what was going on out there.
No.
And then poor Baron, there was so much fog. Like, there was so much fog at one point, you couldn't even see the dog anymore.
No, yeah.
And then finally, Baron comes out, and then there's the struggle with the monster and stuff, So, it's just... I don't like it when the dog dies.
No one likes it when the dog dies.
Unfortunately, Baron's not the only victim.
No. Down by the docks the next morning, Hank and his little posse come across slaughtered dogs. The only dog that's still alive is Johnny Eagles. And this is just because Johnny doesn't live in town. He lives off on his own in the backwoods. Yeah. That's the only reason. And automatically, Hank starts to blame Johnny, who is Native American, which I don't know. We probably mentioned it earlier. But we're then introduced to Peggy, who is getting ready for a date that night, who is dressed in a nightie and heels for some reason.
Fuck it. Why not?
Don't say, no one says YOLO anymore.
I'm bringing it back.
Oh, God. She gets a little scared and freaks herself out a lot, but it's just her boyfriend spying on her. Or was it?
Dude, fucking... Oh, man. She's walking around this damn house, and she puts her hand in the sink where there's dishes in the sink, and then when the dishes clatter, she freaks out.
Yes, yeah.
And then she gets the damn barbecue fork, and she goes...
Barbecue fork?
Yeah, the barbecue fork, and then she sees the light outside. There's a shadow.
Yeah, there's a shadow.
And then the door handle starts, tweaking. And then fucking Jerry pops up behind her. Jerry almost got
stabbed.
He almost got with the damn barbecue fork.
She was ready. She was prepared.
Also, I'd like to go back to the scene before this real quick. So
Which one? The dogs?
When we see the dogs. So Hank Slattery,
yeah.
We get sort of like a close-up of him, and he says the line, "We got a problem." Mm-hmm. And when he said it, it immediately brought to mind Robert Shaw's character from Jaws.
Oh, yeah.
When he says, we're going to need a bigger boat.
Yeah, kind of the same
vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy. Anyways.
So they end up going to a dance, little shindig, whatever going on, and everyone hoedown. Yeah, like a hoedown, and everyone is there, but they decide to stay in the parking lot and get drunk off gin and make out. Because what else are you supposed to do?
That's the way to do it.
During the dance, the mayor introduces the group from Canco, a canning company that's bringing a cannery factory to the area to create jobs and stuff. And Dr. Drake is introduced as a great little scientist, and she apparently found a way to make fish grow bigger and faster. Did you notice when, after like the little meeting and the introduction, Jim kind of got onto his tippy toes before he starts talking to Dr. Drake? So the actress Ann Turkle is somewhere between 5'10" and 6 foot, depending on what internet source you use. And I don't know if it was scripted or not, but he's just kind of measuring himself up to her because they're literally the same height, and he's trying to make himself look taller than her.
There's so many inaccuracies in this movie, and it blows my mind that any that as much of it did get through editing,
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if that was improvised or if that was actually in the script or not. I'm not sure, but the dance is interrupted by Johnny, who is carrying his now dead dog. He implies that Hank, the racist, is responsible, and Hank says that 7 of their dogs were slaughtered and implies that it was Johnny. And it was Johnny lets the town know that he's going to court and he's going to try to sue for the land and get the land back for the Native Americans and stop the cannery from opening. And then there's more racism. A fight breaks out between Johnny and Hank, and a few others join in too before the sheriff breaks it up. He takes his sweet ass time too while they're beating Johnny up. Hank decides to visit Johnny the next morning and overhears Johnny's plans to sue for the land. And meanwhile, on the beach, we've got teens making out while Jim and his crew are out on the boat. Jim is invited the cannery or Canco people out of the boat. So you got the little guy, the short guy, Edwards, and Dr. Drake, and the bigger, higher up guy of the company.
Yeah.
Out on the boat. And she's taking pictures of fish, and they're fishing and doing stuff, and they're flirting a little too. And Jim is a married man, and I don't like it. I don't like it. It's a no-no. One of the guys gets something big on his line, but is unable to pull it up before the line breaks. Ooh. Peggy and her BF are playing around in the water when suddenly Jerry is pulled under, and we see his struggle underwater, and then Peggy starts looking for him and discovers him with his face scratched off. She is then dragged away by the sea monster and assaulted.
Yeah, so going back to the whole Johnny Eagle thing, Native American, like, because they're trying to get their fishing rights back and their land back and stuff, and it really threw me because roughly around this time in the real world, Native American fishing rights were a pretty big topic back in the 70s and stuff. There was even the occupation of Alcatraz. So, because Alcatraz, the island, had not been used by the United States since like the early 50s for the prison. I think it was the Land Act of 1857 or something like that. It basically said that if the U.S. government isn't using that land for their purpose or whatever, it's supposed to revert back to Native American possession. And it never did. So these Native Americans went and occupied the island, and they were there for like 2 years. And then you also had celebrities like Marlon Brando, Jane Fonda, like they were really big into it as well, like getting themselves arrested, basically just bringing this whole thing to light because, the Native Americans, they had these reservations up in like the Pacific Northwest, and then the rivers that ran through their land, they had to get fishing licenses from the state to fish in their own river. And it was just this huge thing. Yeah. And so I'm very, very surprised to see a movie around the same time talking like
the issues of the day.
Yeah. I mean, even Marlon Brando won the Academy Award for Best Actor.
Yes, that's right.
And refused to accept it. Had a Native American woman come on stage.
I know her name.
Yeah, but the fact that they even touched on this topic is pretty wild. But, B movies are known for their, brash topics and stuff, I guess. And then, furthermore, poor Jerry. So when Jerry is trying to get out of the truck during the fist fight scene, Jerry doesn't even get out of the truck before he gets punched in the face, which is super funny. And then, when he's in the water towards the end of that scene with him and Peggy in the water, the special effects that they used on his face was really well done. Like, it was really like on par with, some stuff that you would see today, I would say.
I was trying to find the name of the Native American woman because I've seen her pictures so many times. I've seen the speech a few times myself and stuff. So I wanted to make sure that we actually say her name since you brought it up. Sachin Littlefeather. There we go.
Okay.
All right. I've said the name.
Okay.
Sachin Littlefeather. I think I said it right. I hope I did. Sorry. All right. Anyway, where were we? Okay, so back in town, Hank is scheming against Johnny, yada yada racism.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the tent scene with the dummy. And when I say dummy, I mean a ventriloquist dummy. Billy and his girl are getting frisky in a tent on the beach, and apparently Billy's dummy Chuck gets his girl going. Anyway, they're broken up and attacked by a sea monster, and Billy dies, and the girl is assaulted. Do you want to talk about the dummy?
Dude, this was like scarring for me. I don't know. The fact that all you hear is like her saying like, "Oh, show me more than the head," and then it cuts to the
dummy in the jacket.
Dummy in the jacket or bag or whatever.
Yeah, it's a
with
bag.
The top of its head sticking out. And
just a lot of wood jokes.
Was just She said something along the lines of like, "Am I going to get splinters?" But it was at this moment where I realized that this movie is not a good movie. Yeah. 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 But yeah. And then it was also at this point that I realized that the fish guy, the fish people, they just want to rape everybody. Or the women, I should say.
I saw you. What did you put in your notes? Read it.
I said, okay, so this humanoid fish thing is just raping all the women? What the hell?
And I saw your notes and I was like, yes, that's what this is.
Exactly how I should feel.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
There's no quality content to this film.
Nope.
Anyway, Tommy and Linda are invited over to Johnny's for dinner. And as they're preparing the food, Hank and his gang roll up or drift up in a boat and Molotov Johnny's place. They use one single Molotov, which somehow creates a giant ass explosion. Linda is sent back to town to get help while Tommy and Johnny begin to put out the fire, or try to. And Tommy is pulled into the water by one of the monsters, and Johnny is able to kill it, I think. Two of the monsters. But Tommy's like knocked the fuck out. Like, he's gone. He's seeing stars. And then Linda is attacked on the road by another monster and then runs that bitch over. But there's another one in the back of the truck. It attacks her. Linda then drives off a bridge, crashing Johnny's truck into a fiery explosion.
Yep. R.I.P. Linda.
Yep.
R.I.P. But yeah, that whole scene was fucking wild. Because first off, one Molotov cocktail is not going to blow up a whole ass house. Okay. Linda goes down on the dock for some reason to get
water. She was getting water, I think, out of the pump.
Yeah. And you see one of the fish dudes like reach up kind of and almost grabbed her, so they almost got another one. Yeah. And then Johnny just out there stacking bodies, like just pow, with that fucking rifle while Tommy's over there getting his asshole eaten out. It's pretty wild. And then Linda, so yeah, that first shot of Linda in the truck, the center of the windshield is cut out. And that is where they're going to place the camera for the next shot. Because in the next shot, you see we're looking right at Linda, and you don't get any reflection of the glass or anything like that. So that was a huge error that they just skimmed over, And then in the shot after that, we're facing forward and the whole windshield is there. Yeah. So, like, what the fuck, man?
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Yep.
The next morning, Hank is slathering on the racism again and blaming Johnny for what happened to Linda. And Johnny shows up with an unconscious Tommy and things just escalate from there. Jim, Dr. Drake, and Johnny are the only ones that want to go looking for whatever is causing all the deaths and the assaults. And everyone else is just sort of has an excuse or, just chicken shits pretty much. And as they hunt for the creature, Dr. Drake kind of seems like she knows more than she should. And Jim notices this, and she explains that the monsters are nocturnal and because of their size, they probably live in the ocean. So they go fishing. Also, Johnny's black eye from the fight just keeps getting worse.
That shit, at one point, I thought that shit was like necrotic.
It was like drooping off.
Yeah. Like, bro, you should get that checked out, dude. For real.
The trio begins to explore the coastline and a few caves, and they come across a nest of monsters and are able to kill a few of them. Dr. Drake starts to examine the nest and discovers the body of Peggy, who is still alive. They manage to take the body of one of the monsters back to Dr. Drake's lab. She examines the creature and points out the large cranium, webbed hands, and gills. One of the Kanko guys, Edwards, is like, we gotta keep this on the hush-hush. And Dr. Drake's like, I've been telling you guys about this shit for a long time. Like, she's not gonna be gaslit. She's like, we ain't doing that here. She then shows Jim and Johnny the film about DNA-5 where they have been doing experiments on frogs. By adding DNA-5 to eggs, it causes the fast rate of development and the frogs reach adulthood faster. Kenko was using the DNA-5 to rapidly produce salmon, and then 3,000 of the DNA-5 salmon has escaped into the ocean, and Dr. Dre wanted to tell the authorities, but Kenko was like, nah. So pretty much the DNA-5 had spread through the ecosystem and has created this humanoid fish creature that now wants to mate with humans.
Genius. Pure genius. Absolute, top notch.
Science needs to stay out of food, man.
Yeah, so I thought it was funny how when they brought Tommy back and they bring Tommy and get in the truck and stuff, everybody but Jim was like, no, something's out there, we got to go find evidence and stuff. And everybody else was like, no, we don't. It's Johnny.
Yeah.
Johnny is killing
people. Just just the easiest, point the finger at someone, they don't want to fight for nothing.
Yeah.
Especially if it's they're racist already.
Yeah. And then so Jim and Dr. Drake and Johnny, they go out looking and they find this broken down dock or whatever it is, and she's snapping her pictures and stuff, And there's a whole carcass under this dock or whatever. You can clearly see rib cage and stuff. And absolutely no one is even concerned about it. They don't even pay attention to it. And then later on, they find the nest, and Jim and Johnny, they're just dropping these fucking things. And then they find Peggy's body, and Dr. Drake's like, well, we need to get her to help. So they uncover her, and then she just stands there taking pictures of Peggy.
Yeah.
And then the creature pops up behind Dr. Drake, and Johnny shoots it in the chest.
Yep.
The harpoon. Johnny's badass.
Johnny is a badass. Heroic.
Yep.
So the Salmon Festival has started in Noyo, and it's packed. Jim and the crew show up and tell people about the monsters, showing off one of the dead creatures. Then the monsters show up at the festival, and chaos breaks out. This scene, man, it's a lot going on. People screaming and running, men dying, monsters snatching up girls. Jim and Dr. Drake go out on his boat and spread gas across the water. Great for the environment. Just great, I'm sure. They light that shit up, and I guess somehow this kills the monsters that are in the water. Meanwhile, back at Jim's house, his wife is all alone with her son and being stalked from the outside.
Yeah. Oh my god. So, first off, the turning the water into fire thing was kind of a smart idea, but I'm not entirely sure how they thought that was going to work, because, gasoline floats. It's petroleum based, so it floats on top of the water. So when you set it on fire, it's just the surface that's burning. And not to mention, it wasn't even a big fire. It was several small fires.
4 or 5 of them.
Yeah. And then when we cut to Carol at the house, the very first shot we get of the house, if you're paying attention, you can see that none of the windows actually have glass in them. There's this like planter thing that they have inside the living room, and some of the leaves are sticking out the window. So if there was glass there, that wouldn't be happening. And also, there's no reflection. That's the whole reason they didn't put glass there, so they wouldn't get the reflection of the lights and stuff. Because I know this because it's really hard to get reflections of lights out of glass in post-production, especially back then when they were shooting on film. Today, doing it digitally, it's not as difficult. Yes, there's a lot. It's still a pain in the ass, but you can still do it. But, I like the fact that, well, I don't know if like is a strong word. It's just, I find it funny that they kind of glossed over that.
You're the one that found the Starbucks cup, aren't you?
Oh,
Game of Thrones?
Game of Thrones? Yeah,
that was you.
That was me. I take credit for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Those sons of bitches.
Finally, the men start fighting back and helping save the women. Wow. They kill most of the monsters, and some of them escaped into the burning water. Jim rushes home to his wife after setting the water on fire. His wife and son are being attacked by 3 of the monsters. Carol stuffs their son into a pantry to hide him and goes out and does some monster hunting herself. 3 monsters burst through the door and windows and hunt Carol down, and she tries to fight them off with a lamp, soap, a kitchen knife. She managed to kill at least one of the monsters before she almost stabs Jim as he shows up. Jim and Carol go back to the site of the festival where the sheriff tells them that Dr. Drake has gone back to her lab. We then learn that Dr. Drake has taken Peggy, one of the survivors, to her lab. Dr. Drake is coaching Peggy through birth of her hybrid offspring that has burst through her stomach, revealing a hideous creature. And that's how the movie ends.
Yep, and that's Humanoids from the Deep for you. The scene with Carol and the fish dude punches through the door. Mm-hmm. She is stabbing the fuck out of that dude.
Oh, yeah.
And then he comes through the door and corners her in the kitchen, and she somehow splits him open in the chest, and she's directly stabbing his heart and stuff. And finally he keels over, and then we hear or she goes back to the door, and when Jim comes in, and the door is completely intact now, completely brand new. I just thought that was funny. But the whole Peggy thing, it's really like the chest burster from Aliens.
Yes.
If you remember fucking John Hurt laying there on that table and that fucking thing pops out of his chest, that's almost exactly what this looked like, except it was bigger. It was like infant size.
The jaw was fucked up.
Yeah.
Teeth sharp and...
Yeah. I'm probably going to have nightmares tonight.
I'm sorry.
That's fine.
So the plot wasn't horrible. The quality isn't horrible done, but it feels like it's missing something. Probably all those shots that they removed to make room for the sex stuff. It's a pretty disappointing movie.
Yeah.
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 So... there were actually only 3 costumes for the creatures. And only 3 people playing the creatures. Originally, they had hired some stunt people to do the things, but the stunt people didn't like how the costumes looked because they thought they were too funny and wacky. So they hired additional actors to put the costumes on.
Wow.
Only one of the costumes was actually really nice and able to shoot from any side. The other 2 were kind of wonky and they had to shoot them very carefully.
Right. Well, that just goes to show how, well, not to toot their horn, but I mean, that's kind of good filmmaking, being resourceful like that, because you might not always have what you need, but being able to slap something together out of nothing almost, it's really good. But yeah, so I think so. What I think is the scene with Peggy giving the belly burst. Her, that is a hand in a puppet.
Oh yeah, that has to be. Yeah,
So because you can see like her stomach when she's on the table, like that's clay. Like it's not clay, but it's
it's a model.
it's a model.
Yeah.
So someone had their hand in this puppet coming from under the table and like push through this
Yeah.
to give that sort of, you know,
It was pretty creepy and gross.
Yeah. Also, their screeches, like the monsters, their screeches reminded me of the mandrake plants from Harry Potter.
Yes.
That, like, honestly, if I was not, I don't know, like you could tell me that Harry Potter used those sounds for the mandrake plants, and I would believe you. I would believe you. But
they were pretty good.
Yeah,
they were pretty good.
Absolutely.
So, what would you give this movie out of 10?
It sucked hard. Oh my god.
Is it the worst one so far?
I would say it's pretty close. It is pretty close because at least in all the other movies that we've seen thus far, there haven't been any like blatantly obvious filming errors, at least that I've seen. But when you have like the center of a windshield clearly cut out,
Yeah.
in a shot, like that is really bad. Then the fact that you didn't even catch it, or at least you thought that the audience wouldn't see it, but it's like center frame. It's there for like a good 2 or 3 seconds.
Yes.
Yeah. Or the fact that you're not expecting anybody to notice that there's no glass in these windows in their house when there's clearly a plant sticking through it. It's like, but I would say, in all honesty, I'd probably give it what you gave it, a 3 out of 10.
Yeah, a 3 out of 10. Yeah, definitely a 3.
Yeah. Will I ever watch this movie again?
No,
definitely not.
No, I never want to see this movie again. I never want to hear about it again.
And now, mind you, the runtime is only 80 minutes.
Yeah, it's a short movie. I told you.
Film,
yes.
But you'd have to pay me money to watch this again.
How much?
At least $100.
That's what I was thinking.
At least 100.
That's what I was thinking.
I was gonna go 50, but I was like,
That's not 50, 100.
Yeah.
Even 100's like.
Yeah, that's kind of.
100's like, can I have my phone while I watch?
Yeah.
Do I actually have to pay attention to it again?
Yeah. How about $100 and snacks of my choice?
Ooh, that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my phone.
And one of those like blue raspberry ices you get at the movie theater.
Oh, that sounds really good.
Yeah, that would be okay.
Yeah.
I could do that. For sure.
Well, thanks for watching a movie with me.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Well, you made me watch.
I did make you watch it.
It's kind of the whole point of this podcast.
Yes, it is.
And thank you all for listening.
Yes, thank you for listening.
It's always a pleasure to do these episodes, and we hope you guys are enjoying them as well.
Yes.
But yeah, you can be sure to find this episode and all of our other episodes on Spotify or anywhere else you get your podcasts. You can also check us out on our website, www.andImadehimwatch.com, for all of our other exciting factoids and socials. So be sure to tune in next week when we have another exciting episode for you. And as always, stay spooky.
Bye!
Thank you to all our brave listeners for venturing into the eerie world of And I Made Him Watch with your hosts, Danny Page, and yours truly, Troy Allen. With Danny's penchant for spookiness and my knack for finding technical glitches, we're your dynamic duo for the ultimate fright fest. Our bone-chilling soundtrack, thanks to the wickedly talented Tori Wolf and Epidemic Sound, sets the perfect tone for our hair-raising adventures. As we wrap up this goosebump-inducing episode, get ready for Danny's twisted delight as she subjects me to the horrors of Don't Go in the House. So fasten your seatbelts, lock your doors and windows, and get ready for a ride scarier than a clown at a kid's birthday party. Keep those popcorn bowls ready, and thank you for joining us on this hilarious journey through the macabre.